I completely ruptured my Achilles tendon in August of 2000, or July of 2000.
Oh, right on. So we have a healed Achilles here. So even more important that we're trying to normalize tissue. So as I dorsiflex him, notice that he's missing like 5 degrees to get back to 0. So he has negative dorsiflexion. Isn't that weird? So in an athlete who prides himself on being a fantastic jumper, this is our point, right? This is always going to be. If I'm a runner, I look like a runner. If I'm a weightlifter, I look like a weightlifter. If I'm a gymnast, I look like a gymnast. What we're going to see is you're always going to see certain patterns in yourself because that's the way who you are and how you walk. And so here we have this jumping athlete who's a super sick athlete, injured his Achilles, but now he's still missing range of motion. So as I grab the skin, notice it doesn't slide over the tendon at all. In fact, check to see if your skin slides over your tendon. Yeah, it's weird, it does. It's called your skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I want to show you something. He's missing this ankle range of motion, but what happens if I just turn his foot out a little bit? Does that seem to improve his ankle range of motion? Yeah. Problem solved, let's go jump. Right? The problem now is that his Achilles really isn't pulling straight anymore, is it? It's pulling off axis. So right now his Achilles is set up, bam, let's go to town, let's do some work, and all of a sudden you're like, no, plus 30 degrees. And now his Achilles pulls off obliquely, and now we have a mechanism for Achilles shearing, a problem, right? He solved this problem mechanically because he's a human being and he's designed for adaptation. He's like, I can go on. I can take the scratch and still fight my way out of this, right? And what ends up happening is now he's gone around the problem, and as he does this, his ankle starts to collapse. There's this navicular bone on the ground, right? He's starting to collapse through the joint a little bit. The foot isn't working as a foot anymore. The ankle isn't working as an ankle. He's put that ankle into an open position. What happens to his knee? Notice this twisting that's happening? He's unwinding his ACL. In fact, take your right hand, cross it over your finger, put it on your right knee. Now, pin those fingers down from the bottom. This is your anterior cruciate ligament. And then go ahead and externally rotate your hand. But if you pin the fingers, notice what happens. The fingers get tighter. Isn't that weird? So that when you externally rotate, i.e. shove your knee out, notice that your knee becomes more stable. Very strange, phenomenal. And then if you turn your foot out, you unwind the ACL. Or if your knee comes in, you unwind the ACL. Isn't that weird? So what happens if he goes around his ankle range of motion? He potentially makes himself more susceptible. And this is one of those forced dump torque dumps. He's dumping torque to solve a problem. Because he's set up as a human being, he kicks an ass still, right? And this is not about his ability to, he can do all of these crazy things way better than I am. He's twice the athlete than I am. He's worked well at Masters. My job in my gym, in my lab, is to take the best athletes in the world and make them better. That's the goal in this thing, is to find out the small details, because those are the conversations. So if I take this very complex tool, and I wind up his skin here, and I just give it a quick pop, and all I'm doing is making sure that that skin actually slides over the tendon. It's a sliding surface problem, right? So I'm just ungluing. You could call this fascial release with percussion, but I prefer to call it ball whacking, because I'm from San Francisco. And that's what I'm doing. Like, don't be all fancy about it. This is a skin sliding remediation drill, right? Do you need a doctor's note to make sure your skin slides over your own body? And, that's a problem. So, it's really easy to get this thing unglued. And I'm not even making eye contact with him because I don't need to. I know how fun this is because I'm a professional person. And just making sure that the skin now. Did that change his range of motion? Yeah, we can see a change. And all we did was unglue his skin. So the reason is sometimes we don't take a systems approach to these things. And we make adaptation errors. He slides. He had an injury here. This tissue isn't super perfused. It gets a little sticky sometimes. It's always going to be the problem because it's an injured site. And then sometimes, now, we start to buy in range of motion. The key is, this is just all bullshit because it's not really a movement, it's a correlate. The only thing that matters is this expression of this range of motion and control. So, did I make an error? Did I test anything before I changed them? No. Oh, sort of. Passive range of motion, which, great for you and me as therapists, but less great for someone who doesn't care. All he cares about is, hey, my ankle hurts, right? And so maybe I can ameliorate that, but what I want to do is drive these changes in position mobility into something that matters to him that's meaningful, which is squatting, pushing, pulling, running, changing position, you know what I mean? That's the key. That's the key to this whole thing, is tying it back in. Let's see what your range of motion looks like. Stand up, Rick. Let's see a squat. No, quick, sit down.